Hare Krishna. So today we are going to study the seventh mantra of Sri Isopanishad. Till now we have completed the first 6 mantras. And the first 8 mantras of Sri Isopanishad discuss about the vision of the entire Isopanishad. So the 7th mantra goes like this. Let me share, explain with you. Let us recite this beautiful mantra together. यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मैवाभूद्विजानतः तत्र को मोहः कः शोकः एकत्वम् अनुपश्यतः यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मैवाभूद्विजानतः तत्र को मोहः कः शोकः एकत्वम् अनुपश्यतः यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मैवाभूद्विजानतः तत्र को मोहः कः शोकः एकत्वम् अनुपश्यतः. Synonyms. Yasmin, in the situation. Sarvani, all. Bhutani, living entities. Atma, the Chitkana or spiritual spark. Eva, only. Abhut, exist as. Vijanataha, of one who knows. Tatra, therein. Kaha, what. Moha, illusion. Kaha, what. Shokaha, anxiety. Ekatvam, oneness in quality. Anupashyataha, of one who sees through authority or one who sees constantly like that. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? Tasmai Shri Gurave Sri Chaitanya Manopishram Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Dupakadamayyam Dadati Swapadam Vanchapalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna. So, this particular mantra of Sri Isopanishad is very, very relevant in the current context. Today we are in a world where there is a lot of friction between nations. There's a lot of unrest. There's a lot of war, either be it a physical war or the war of narratives or the war of ideologies. So there is so much of political unrest across the world. So during these times, this particular mantra is so much direction giving if we truly understand the spirit. So one may question that in the name of God, how can there be war? So if we know the recent incident that has happened, the perpetrator has questioned the religion of the victim and then murdered. So does that mean if you're belonging to a particular faith and are worshipping a particular god, you're meant to be killed? If you do not worship the god in my way, according to my religion, you don't deserve to live. So is this what religion is ultimately teaching humanity? Yes. Is this in the name of God, if people are becoming enemies, what is the meaning of God consciousness? So where has, because both the parties on the other side, the people are thoroughly convinced that whatever they're doing according to particular understanding of their way towards God. They're thoroughly convinced about that. Then if religion is supposed to bring harmony, religion is supposed to bring peace, why is there so much war, conflict, unrest? So this beautiful mantra of Sri Isopanishad, especially the purport of Srila Prabhupada, when we read it scrutinizingly, it can shed light and give very beautiful answers to the current situation. So let us go through this purport systematically. Except for the Madhyamadikari and Utthamadikari discussed above, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of a living being. This is how it starts. Yeah. It requires a qualification, yeah, to see the oneness, the equality amongst people. Yeah, here it's very clearly written. Except for the Madhyamadikari and Uttamadikari, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of a living being. So without this ability to truly see the position of a living being, we will only be able to see somebody as a black or a white, a Hindustani or a Pakistani or an American, or a male or a female, or a Brahmana or a Chandala. This is how, we'll be an ordinary person is envisioning people in front of them. Yeah, this is an Indian, that's a Pakistan. So, but people with elevated consciousness, that of a Madhyamadikari and Uttamadikari, who have an evolved consciousness, we discussed about in the previous mantra. Who is a Madhyamadikari? Does anybody remember, recall? What are the qualities of a Madhyamadikari? Yes. Anybody recalls? What are the qualities of a Madhyamadikari? And how is a Madhyamadikari different from an Uttamadikari? Okay. So Madhyamadikari is the one who is able to perceive living entities at 4 different levels. Prema, Maitri, Kripa, Apeksha. Madhyamadikari has love for God, make friendships with devotees or like-minded people, shows compassion to the juniors or upstarts, and Apeksha maintains distance from the envious. And Uttamadikari, on the other hand, is he's a Pandita Samadarshi. He sees everyone as equal. And he does not even make a distinction between atheist and a theist. This is an Uttamadikari. So unless a person is so evolved in one's consciousness, they cannot see the correct position of a living being. So what is this correct position of a living being? Here in this verse, Ekatvam Anupashyati, the word Ekatvam is very important. So the living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, just as the sparks of a fire are qualitatively one with the fire. Yeah. So here in this coming to paragraphs, Prabhupada gives two analogies to explain this oneness. If you see in this particular mantra, there is this key word called ekatvam anupashyatah. Yeah, seeing oneness. Yeah, the vision of an evolved personality is that he sees oneness. What is that oneness? So that is explained in the coming two verses. So oneness means there is oneness in quality. Yeah, but there is no oneness in the quantity. This is exactly the Siddhanta that is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, simultaneous oneness and difference. So here Prabhupada explains with the example of a spark of fire and fire. Yeah, is a spark of fire and fire, the fire that is blazing, are both equal, are both one? Yes, Meghna, Srinija. Are spark and fire equal? Yes. Are they equal or no? Are they one or no?
Yes, Mataji.
They're equal. Okay. So they are equal in their quality, but not quantity. That's a subtle difference we need to understand. So spark means ekchit karna. Karna is, same in quality as the fire, because both of them can burn. Yeah, they have the same property, but they're different in quantity. Yeah, maybe a chitkarn can burn just a small piece of paper, but fire can consume an entire forest. So in quantity and in power, both of them are different, but in quality, they are the same. So this is how we exactly understand the difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. Yes. So sparks are not fire as far as quantity is concerned. For the quantity of heat and light present in the spark is not equal to that in fire. So the Mahabhagavad devotee of the Lord sees oneness. Oneness in what? In the quality, but not in the quantity. So another example that Srila Prabhupada gives in the next purport is the word, Another example that Prabhupada gives is that of a drop and an ocean. A drop and ocean are again same in quality, in it that a drop tastes salty and even the ocean water is salty. Yeah, both have the same properties. But can a drop be ocean? No. They are widely different in their quantities. Yes. So this is what again is ekatvam. Yeah, ekatvam is they're one in quality, but different in quantity. Yeah. So if Prabhupada poses an argument that there are some people who actually claim that human being and God, they're not different. Human being is God. You are God, I am God, everyone is God. So if we are all God, if we are one with God, even in quality and quantity, there is no question of us coming under the control of material nature. The fact is that we are not one in quantity with God, although we are one in quality. So that is the reason why we become dominated by superior energies. So, but then what is the question of ekatvam here? That is, that this mantra is speaking about. What is that oneness that this mantra is speaking about? So the oneness that this mantra is speaking about is the oneness in interest. So what is this oneness in interest? If you see a family or a nation, they have one single interest. Like let's see our group. We have one interest, which is spirituality. Similarly, there's a nation, it has one interest that maybe, spirit of patriotism or their particular country be the top, the best in sports or in technology or in economy or in any other thing. That's the interest of the nation. right? Meghna, you're a sports person. You know how much what you feel when you represent your nation in Olympics or such sports, and when the Tiranga flies high, it's the entire nation that's saluting you, right? So that is one in interest. Yeah. So since the living entities are all members of the same supreme family, their interest and that of the supreme being are not different. Yeah, this is originally our position. Yeah. Because we are part and parcel of the supreme, our interest and Krishna's interest is not different. Yeah. So, and not just the human beings, but the birds, reptiles, ants, aquatics, trees, and all the living entities. Yeah, they're all the marginal potency of God. So all of us belong to the family of God. So that is the reality. All the human beings across the world, whether you're an Indian or an American or a Russian or a Chinese or Japanese, we're all the children of one God. Yeah, including the birds, the reptiles, and plants and aquatics. Any living entity is a part of, it's an emanation from God, and it's a marginal potency of Supreme Lord. This is given in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kam mano buddhirevacha ahamkaramiti bhimna prakriti vashtada. So the bhimna prakriti, the external energy of the Lord, is these 8, the 5 panchabhutas, and man, buddhi, ahankar. These 8 are the bhimna prakriti, the external energy of God. And the next verse, Krishna speaks that the living entities, apareyam hitastvanyam vidhime prakritin param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedham dharyate jagat. Yeah. So there is, apart from this external energy, there is also my internal energy. Prakritin vidhime param. It's called the para prakriti, the superior energy. Yeah. So this superior energy is the living entities. This is how Krishna classifies and says that all the living entities are his marginal energy, marginal potency. So in that way, there is ekatvam. So all the living entities are parts and parcel of one God, who is one Father. Aham bija pradapita, one Supreme Father. So when we understand that there is one Father, there is no clash of interest. So for example, like you're from the engineering background, right? So you draw concentric circles with one center. With one center, how many ever circles you draw, do the circles intersect? You can draw infinite number of circles, but none of the circle intersect if you're drawing with one center. Concentric circles never intersect because they have one center. But if you draw circles with 2 different centers, there is always intersection. So when we realize there is one Supreme God and He is a Supreme Father and all His living entities are His parts and parcels, there is no clash of interest. And forget clash of interest. There is brotherhood. There is a sense of belonging. There is a spirit of family. Yeah, and there is unity at a higher level. And this is the secret of world peace. If the world were ever to become peaceful, this is the spirit one needs to adopt. And certainly it's not easy. Yeah, it's certainly not easy. Yeah, when Lord Krishna himself was present on the earth in the Dwapar Yuga, So he was himself, there was one atmosphere in Vrindavan and there was a contrasting atmosphere back in Hastinapur. Yes, in Vrindavan is exactly the example of how the world would be if they would have practiced this principle of ekatvam, being one in interest. So let's see this contrasting picture. So what is the picture of the world in Vrindavan? So when Krishna and Balaram were walking, the grass was, wanting to be softer so that it provides cushion for the lotus feet of Krishna. Yeah. So the bumblebees around were buzzing and singing songs, like glorifying Lord Krishna, by buzzing. So these bumblebees were great sages in their past lives. So, and the trees were swaying in ecstasy. Yeah, when the Lord was passing, and the seasons were trying to be best of themselves to facilitate the perfect ambience for the Lord's pastimes. And the birds were singing sweetly, to give pleasure to the Lord. The cuckoos, the charvakas, and all these exotic birds, the special birds, they were all singing in their most melodious voice to give pleasure to the ears of Krishna. And the flowers were in full blossom. And the fruits were ripe. And the trees were, dripping sap. In the ecstasy of, of the Lord passing by. And this was Vrindavan, where all the animals, the trees, the plants, the weather, the climate, and what to speak of Krishna's associates, the Gopas, the Gopis, and all the Brajvasis, everyone is so much in love with Krishna, and they're all trying to please Krishna in their own ways. Yeah, by joking with him, by being a friend of Krishna, by taking care of him, by cooking nice food for him, by being part of his beautiful ecstatic pastimes. So everybody was dedicated to give pleasure to Krishna. That's why Vrindavan it's beautiful. There is no conflict of interest, and this is what is spiritual world. Because everybody's object of worship, of love, of devotion is one single person, that is Krishna. So there is no conflict. That's Vrindavan. In the same Dwapar Yuga, when Krishna appeared, if you see what is the situation in the other side, in Hastinapur, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. All the Pandavas, they loved Krishna as their very heart and soul. Yeah, they were they were one in interest with him, along with Draupadi. And what was that interest? That interest is establishment of dharma. And what about the Kauravas? Yeah, their interest was self-interest. Yeah, Duryodhana wanted to become the king. He wanted to rule. He wanted to have control. Yes, he wanted to be the enjoyer. So his interest is self-interest. So his motivation is to enjoy at the cost of others. Yeah, at the cost of destroying others. So this was Duryodhana, and this was the Kauravas. On the other hand, on the other side were the Pandavas, who were one in interest with the Supreme Lord Krishna. And their desire was Krishna's desire, that is to establish dharma. And that was why there was conflict. Because there are two centers. For the Pandavas, the center is Krishna. For the Kauravas, the center is the self. So two different centers, and that is why there was conflict. Yeah, and amongst the Pandavas, there was never a conflict because for them, Krishna was always the center. Whenever Krishna is in the center, there can be no conflict. So this is exactly what is the ekatvam, the concept of ekatvam. Yeah, ekatvam is to have one center, that is having Krishna as center. If you have any questions so far, you can raise your hand or we will continue. Now, there's another beautiful further explanation of the concept of ekatvam, that is the oneness. In this particular paragraph, Srila Prabhupada speaks about the enjoyment propensity. Yeah, the spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment. By nature and constitution, every living being, including the Supreme Lord and each of his part and parcels, is meant for eternal enjoyment. So here there is again oneness. Yeah. What is the oneness between the Supreme Lord and the living entities? That both are meant for enjoyment. Yeah. The commonality between Lord and living entities is enjoyment. They are both built for bliss. Yeah. So the living entity always seek bliss. Anandamayobhyasat. That's a Vedanta Sutra, which says that every living entity's eternal propensity is to enjoy Anandamayobhyasat. And that's the very nature of God himself. So then both are built for bliss or enjoyment. So they are simultaneously one. And the difference is that God is the enjoyer and the living entities are the enjoyed. So this is very beautiful concept, the simultaneous oneness and difference. The living entity's enjoyment is in being enjoyed by Krishna. And Krishna's enjoyment is in enjoying the living entities. Yeah. So, and when there is this exchange of rasa, or in the relationship between God and the living entities, then the enjoyment is completely manifest. But just like in a house, say in a family, when the father and the sons, or the father and the children are congenial, or let's say the children are very much obedient to the father's will, then there is very pleasant atmosphere in the house. Yeah. There is a lot of happiness, there is enjoyment, there's nice family time, everybody has fun. Yeah. And the children are obedient to the father. But on the other hand, if the children are disobedient, they have clash of interest with the father. There is friction. There is no good relationship. There is no question of enjoyment. The same picture is applicable between relationship between Krishna and the living entities. So when there is love between Krishna and the living entities, then there is enjoyment. When the living entities are obedient to the will of God, they're subordinate to the desires of God, yeah, then there is enjoyment. Then there is happiness, there is peace, there is bliss, there is satisfaction, there is happiness. But when the living entities are disobedient to the will of God, they disobeyed the laws of God, then there is misery. It's simple. You can appreciate this with this example of family. Hare Krishna. Yes. So, this is ekatva, oneness of interest. Yeah, oneness of interest, as we see that the oneness in enjoyment, yeah, being built for enjoyment. The original nature of the living entities is to enjoy And the nature of the Supreme Lord is enjoyment. But Lord is the enjoyer and the living entities are enjoyed. But one interesting thing about this particular dynamics is that there is more happiness in being enjoyed. That is why Krishna, being very eager to understand what is that happiness of being enjoyed, he actually came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to experience that that particular mood of Srimati Radharani. So it is said that Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and Srimati Radharani is the supreme enjoyer. To understand what is that happiness came as Mahaprabhu. So this Prabhupada gives this beautiful description of Ekatvam in the dimension of enjoyment. The living beings who are engaged in the material tabernacle are constantly seeking enjoyment, but they are seeking it on the wrong platform. Apart from the material platform is the spiritual platform where the Supreme Being enjoys himself with his innumerable associates. On that platform, there is no trace of material qualities. Hey, Hari, 1 second. The recording is not. Okay, is the recording on? Yeah, it's on. So on the Nirguna, on that platform, there is no trace of material quality, and therefore the platform is called Nirguna. Yeah. So the living entities currently engaged in the material tabernacle are constantly seeking enjoyment, but seeking it on the wrong platform. So this is the understanding. Yeah, and one who understands the real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who is the center of the sublime and spiritual rasa dance. We are all meant to join him and enjoy life with one transcendental interest and without any clash. That is the highest platform of spiritual interest. And as soon as one realizes this perfect form of oneness, there can be no question of illusion, that is moha, or lamentation, shoka. So this is what this mantra is speaking about. Tatra ka moha and ka shoka. What is the illusion and lamentation for a person who is able to see this oneness? Yes. So one is who realizes that the real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord. Yeah. For such a person, there is no illusion or lamentation. So this is a very deep realization. And for a person who has realized that there is no more illusion and there is no more lamentation. And here is what it is. Our current situation, a godless civilization arises from illusion, and the result of such a civilization is lamentation. A godless civilization, such as that sponsored by the modern politicians, is always full of anxieties because it may be crushed at any moment. That is a law of nature. Yeah. So the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita speaks about Daimyesha Gunamayi Mamamaya Duratteya. Yeah. This material nature, made of 3 modes of material nature, are very difficult to overcome. Only by surrendering unto me will you be released from this stringent laws. So other than surrender to God, there is no other way. Yeah. So the current situation of this world, which is going through a lot of turbulence. I mean, I don't know how if you are in touch with the current news, but it's the entire world is it's in a state of a lot of unrest. Yeah. The Gaza and the wars, the Ukraine and Russia, and the Indo-Pak wars and the Chinese interventions and whatnot, and the way the whole economic situation of US is going to impact the whole world. It's also an astrological prediction about how a lot of things that are going to come up from the year 2025 to 2030. Yes. So the world is really going through a lot of unrest at different levels. So it is important to be aware of what's happening around. And in such situations, when we are looking for solutions, it is India that can provide solutions. It's the spiritual knowledge that can give a direction. A similar situation has happened during the Second World War. Nations were fighting, and it was real-time war. There was destruction with weapons. Yeah. Currently, the kind of retaliation that India has given towards Pakistan is very, very strategic and very much very thoughtful. It was not destructive. It was very measured, very, very measured. Yeah, but it was quite different at the time of the Second World War. Yeah, the whole world many countries were at loggerheads with each other. So a lot of destruction was happening. Many lives were lost. Many resources were destroyed. So during that time, many leaders of the world, they had commented that now the whole world is looking towards India for solutions because its spiritual wisdom can give us hope. And this is what the world leaders have had the opinion. And it's no different even currently. If we just simply understand this mantra of Isopanishad in its true spirit, and if it is practiced, yeah, it can certainly give so much of hope and direction towards a very peaceful world ahead. So that is why it's very important for the leaders to understand the message of the Gita, the Bhagavatam, and the Upanishads. So here's the concluding paragraphs. The results of our activities must be used to serve the interest of the Lord and not for any other purpose. Yeah. So here is, what happens in this particular paragraph. Prabhupada speaks about what happens for a person who is not one in interest with the Lord. Yeah. The father extends himself through his children and maintains them in order to derive pleasure. If the children obey the father's will, family affairs will run smoothly with one interest and a pleasing atmosphere. The same situation is transcendentally arranged in the absolute family of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Spirit. Yeah. So this is what happens when you practice the concept of ekatva, being one in interest with God. There is peace, there is harmony, and everything will run smoothly. Yeah, just like family affairs run smoothly when there is obedience of the children towards the father. So right now, the war is because of so much of disobedience. If you go into the root of it, it's pretty clear, very, very clear. The Parabrahman is as much a person as the individual entities. Neither the Lord nor the living entities are impersonal. Yeah, this is understanding the personal aspect of God. Yeah. So unless one understands God as a person, there is no question of developing a similar interest or love. How can you develop love for something that has no form, that is formless, that has no qualities? It's impossible to develop a relationship. So that is a real position of spiritual existence. And as soon as one is fully cognizant of this transcendental position, one at once surrenders to the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, Sri Krishna. So So it is a journey, towards realization of God. Yeah, it starts with sadhana, but it takes persistence and perseverance and consistency and sincerity. And when this sincerity attracts the mercy of God, He empowers the living entities to realize Him. Then one becomes cognizant of the transcendental position. When the living entity then realizes who is God, what does he do? He at once surrenders to the lotus feet of God. He cannot live even a minute without thinking of God. Yeah. And such a person is very, very rare, and such a position is to be attained after many, many births. Yeah, there's this beautiful verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlava. So such a Mahatma, Samahatma Sudurlava. Such a Mahatma or great soul is very rarely seen, because such transcendental realization is achieved only after many, many births. Yeah. And once that realization is achieved, there is no longer illusion or lamentation or the miseries of material existence or birth and death, which are experienced in our present life. This is the information we get from this mantra of Shri Isopanishad. So what does this mantra state? The mantra states about who are the people who no longer experience lamentation and illusion. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in one quality with the Lord becomes a true knower of things, and what then can be illusion or anxiety for them. So this is about seeing all the living entities in relationship with God and what such vision can bring to a person. Yeah, there is neither illusion and nor lamentation. And what is seeing living entities in relationship with God? With seeing the oneness in them. Yeah, the oneness in quality, the oneness in enjoyment. Simultaneous oneness and at the same time difference. This is saying ekatvam anupashyati. So a living entity who is able to see this oneness between the eternal spiritual sparks and its relationship with Lord, for such person, he has attained the realization of God, and that realization keeps him beyond moha and shoka, that is illusion and lamentation. Hare Krishna, I will stop here. Is there any question? Did you understand the subject matter? So Upanishads are very philosophical, very deep. If there is no attention, it is difficult to understand. Is there any question or any concept that you did not understand or need to be, or you want it to be repeated?
Mataji, you said that कि ये मैत्री करुणा मुदिता उपेक्षा. This is also stated in Patanjali Yoga Darshan for Chit Prasadan. So my question is, in Patanjali Yoga Darshan, it is said that matlab God is Nirakar, he don't have any form. If he don't have any form, then how the Prakriti is coming together? They say Purusha and Prakriti, but Purusha is human. They say Atma and Prakriti come together and they make 23 tattvas. How it is relatable? Matlab, how is it true or is it wrong?
Yeah. So many scriptures, yeah, they actually give certain words that are misinterpreted. Yeah. When they say God is Nirakar, yeah, many actually also scriptural statements speak about God is Nirakar and Nirguna. So what does it mean? It means God does not have a material form. So your question is wonderful, because this is exactly the next mantra. The next mantra of his Upanishad is about this one. There's the qualities of God. Yeah. One of the quality of God is Ashnavira. That is, he does not have any veins. So what does that mean? He does not have a material body like us that is made of skin and blood and mucus and veins and bones. This is what our body is made of, right? But this is not what Krishna's body is made of. In that sense, he is Nirakar. His body is made of pure Satchit Ananda. Yeah, if Satchit Ananda has a form, that is what is Krishna. Now, his cells are not like our cells, which have this nucleus, mitochondria, and RNA, DNA, all this. That's not what Krishna's cells are made of. The cells are made of Satchitananda. Yes, it's very different. So in that sense, he is Nirakara. And he is also Nirguna. So Nirakara means he has no material form. Nirguna means he has no material qualities. So what does Krishna have? He has a transcendental form and he has transcendental qualities. So that is understanding, the higher understanding or the complete understanding of Bhagavan. So Purusha itself means he's a person. This is what Prabhupada's entire fight is about when we recite the mantra, pranam mantra of Prabhupada. Nirvishesha shunyavadi paschatya deshatari. So Prabhupada is delivers teachings of Prabhupada delivers us from the impersonal conceptions of God. So the interpretation that Nirakar means God is formless or he has no form is wrong. Nirakar means God has no material form. His form is spiritual. That is the complete understanding. Yeah. So the sutra might has given in the sutra it might be given that Bhagavan Nirakar hai. The interpretation is God does not have a material form. When it is interpreted and understood in that way, understanding is complete. Okay. So the bhashya is important.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other question? So this, especially in your next verse, next mantra of Isopanishad speaks very, very much about these beautiful qualities. You can even ask your teacher about what this means. Yeah. In the light of this particular mantra, how do we understand the Yoga Sutras? Okay. You can post that particular sutra which you're referring to in the group.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah. So we will end here. Any other question?